A very warm good afternoon, good evening to all our participants today for this very special webinar organized by the GST and Indirect Taxes Committee of ICAI. As a member of the Central Council and as the chairman of the GST and Indirect Taxes Committee of the 24th Council, I sincerely thank each and every one of you, especially those who joined from the South, for re-electing me to the 25th Council. Our activities, unabated, continues for the services of the Institute, the members, and the nation in general. All of you would have experienced issues in GST right from 2017, and it continues. Many members would have also come face to face with departmental proceedings, whether it is by way of a summon, search, audit, departmental audit, which would have culminated into a show cause notice. There might be letters received from department calling for information and so on and so forth, which the members call it as a notice. Sir, I received a notice from the department. This is actually a letter from the department calling for information, etc. How to face those proceedings? How to instill a confidence in your client that you, the chartered accountant, is capable of handling that particular situation. We wanted to equip you. We have been talking in the committee from quite some time that these kind of initiatives which equip the member in facing the department, whether it is audit, whether it is a reply to be prepared by the show cause notice and then taking the matter to appeal and the tribunal and so on, the committee should organize certain programs. Today, we have here with us CA Jatin Christopher, a name which is not unknown. And as I speak, I find our very honorable Vice Chairman of the GST and Indirect Taxes Committee, CA Sushil Kumarji Goel, logging in. Sir, heartiest welcome to you. Friends, Sushil Kumarji Goel was the first chairman of this committee in this council, and hence he continues to be my chairman at all times. It is his large-heartedness, I would say, that he stepped down as chairman and allowed me to take over the reins so that I also experience the committee and I also deliver whatever is required for the profession. Thank you, Sushil sir. Thank you so much for the favors that you have done to me by handing over the baton to me and putting me face to face on the same pedestal with greats like Jatin Christopher. Sir, I sincerely welcome you to the committee's first program of the January 2022, wherein Jatin sir is going to talk of departmental proceedings, how to handle them, and so on. All of you participants know Jatin. And today, if about 1,500 plus audience is viewing this program, the credit not only goes to committee, its staff, to me or anyone else, but the credit also goes to the speaker of the day, CA Jatin Anil Christopher. Sir, I welcome you, Jatin sir, sparing your Sunday valuable time. And before I hand over the proceedings to you, I will request our Honorable Vice Chairman sir to also give his initial opening remarks and then invite Jatin sir to make his presentation. Over to you, CA Sushil Kumarji Goel, Central Council member, elected 25 and continuing to be the Central Council member for the Central Council 24th Council. Over to you, sir.
Good evening, Chairman RK sir, and my best friend Jatin bhai from Bangalore. Assets to the GST and Indirect Tax Committee. Whenever we call him, he always available and taking session to the best possible manner. And also the love is shown by all our member fraternity. who join in such a large number whenever Jitin Bhai is there. So I just wish there will be a wonderful learning session. I don't want to come in between the Jitin Bhai and the audience or the participant. So over to you, Jitin Bhai, for the deliberation today's program.
Thank you very much, sir. Good evening, friends. This is certainly a privilege to be able to address our members on such a timely and important topic of departmental proceedings in GST. It's more than 4.5 years since introduction of GST. While we were busy coming to terms with the new law, understanding, getting to grips with how this law operates, we are suddenly seeing a flood of notices. And when this point was discussed, I find that this experience is not limited in one state, but it is all over the country. There is a flood of notices everywhere. So therefore, our members need to be given this input as part of their own approach to dealing with these notices, some broad contours as to what is going on, what is the right way to respond, and how should we take this forward. When we receive any notice from the department, the response immediately is of any of these three kinds. Either it is fear or anger or disappointment. Fear because the mistakes committed has come to light. Now, who is going to deal with explaining this to the client and then the department and then the process that is to follow? Who is going to deal with this? Fear. Anger because look what kind of notices are being issued. How can somebody interpret the law this way? Disappointment. How can there be a law like this? Who made this law like this? Why wasn't the client informed beforehand about this? Why did we not look at these issues from this point of view? So on and so forth. Friends, I would submit to you, please give me 2 hours. And I want to share with you my mistakes, learnings from my mistakes, so that I may be able to encourage you in your experience. We're all learning this law together. But I request this time for you to share with me, because there is a very urgent need to bring your attention to certain important aspects about how taxpayers' preparedness needs to be dealt with in this situation. The most powerful section in the entire GST law, if we have to look for, I would pick section 59. Section 59 says, every registered person shall self-assess his liability to tax under this act and discharge taxes for each tax period through the returns he files under section 39. So therefore, friends, you are the assessing officer. The taxpayer is the assessing officer for all assessments in GST. There is no such thing called a departmental officer will conduct any assessment. Nobody is going to conduct any assessment. Please be confident about the tax positions you have taken. You have taken some tax position. Be confident about it. Fear, anger, disappointment will cloud our thinking. We have to keep away from these emotions and be confident that we have taken a certain interpretation of the law, a bona fide interpretation, no less. Now, how is it that the department is going to question this? Please bear in mind, when the department feels that the interpretation that I as a taxpayer have followed is not correct, they cannot make me investigate myself. Please remember this point. Department cannot put a question to me and allow me to investigate. What is the meaning of allowing me to investigate? Means I have to prove my innocence. Those days are gone under the earlier tax regime, especially under the VAT regime. If the department believes that my self-assessment is incorrect, it is for the revenue to carry out three things. First, identify the transaction about which they are not happy with the interpretation. Second, arrive at the alternate interpretation of the law. Third, bring evidence in support of the demand. Friends, this is not an easy task. I give you a small recent example from the recent past. How many have received show cause notices that 26 AS and ST3 are not matching? 26 AS and ST3 are not matching. How many have not received notices? Everybody almost has received notices. But my question is, who said 26 AS and ST3 is supposed to match? So therefore, friends, it comes back to, if we allow fear, anger, or disappointment to be the first reaction when we receive any communication from the department, we have lost the battle already. The next section I want to invite your attention to is section 160, subsection 2. Whenever there is a notice, order, or communication, imagine how wide the word is. Notice, order, or communication. If the taxpayer has already acted upon it, he will forfeit his right to question the validity of such notice. If a person who receives a notice, order, or communication and he has already acted upon it, what is acting upon a notice? Replying to it on merits. If you reply to any communication, if you reply to any notice, or you act upon any order, then you have kissed your safeguards goodbye. That means you don't want to question the correctness of this notice at all in the future proceedings at all. So please go back to section 160, subsection 2, and recognize that the law indirectly imposes this duty on me whenever I receive a notice, order, or communication to question the question. I have to question the question before I answer the question. Because of my vast knowledge, because of the vast information that I have about the client's business, no sooner than a question is put to me, I am launching myself into answering the question. I request you, please, before answering the question the question. Why should you question the question? Because if you don't question the question, you can never question the question in the future again. The third section I want to invite your attention to is section 155 of CGST Act. Section 155 says, where any person claims input tax credit, then the burden of proof of such claim shall be on such person. All right. Where a person claims input tax credit, then the burden of proof of eligibility to such credit shall be on such person, which means for everything else, the burden is on revenue. You understand? When the law places a particular burden on me, then the law is indirectly saying that the burden on everything else is not on me, it is on revenue. So therefore, please don't fritter away your rights, your remedies, and your safeguards that are there in the law. Section 59, 160 subsection 2 and 155 are the first provisions I want to present for your kind consideration. The next aspect for us to look at is time limit. Whether what you have done is correct or it is wrong, whether what is wrong is innocently done or otherwise, time limit is very paramount in GST. For that matter, any law, because nothing can be opened indefinitely. It traces back to section 11 of Civil Procedure Code on res judicata, finality to litigation. So therefore, if you see, section 74 places a time limit. 74 says that any proceeding should ultimately result in a demand through a show cause notice, and that notice should be issued not later than 5 years from the due date for filing the annual return. What is this? 5 years from the due date for filing the annual return. For the year 1718, when was the due date for filing the annual return? We kept on asking for extension. Government kept on giving extension. You know what the extensions have done? Extensions have moved the time limit for the expiration also forward. So 7th February 2020 was the last date for filing the annual return for 1718. So therefore, for 1718, show cause notice can be issued and adjudicated not later than 6th February 2025. Show cause notices have to be given 6 months before this time ends. Orders have to be passed within 60 months. So 54 months to give the notice, 60 months to pass the order. So friends, today when you look at notices, please don't equate it with how can they give so many notices? Should they not give one notice for all the issues for a financial year? No. Any number of notices can be given, and the only control figure is the due date. The last date, if that last date is still open, then any number of notices can be given. So therefore, friends, it brings us back to the importance of today's topic, departmental proceedings in GST. So you are going to get notices from everywhere, multiple times for the same financial year also. Don't be wondering why so many notices are being given. When I say that it is raining notices in Karnataka and in other states, it is not a complaint, it is an observation. There are notices everywhere. I'll give a small instance why notices are justified. See, we have discharged some tax through DRC3. We have discharged some tax to DRC3. When I have myself admitted that some tax is payable and I have paid that tax through DRC3, the question is interest also supposed to be paid or interest is not supposed to be paid? No, there is confusion about section 50. No, confusion is in a different place. Confusion is not about DRC3 payments. When I myself have discharged tax through DRC3, how come I discharged it without discharging interest? So there is a question. So therefore, friends, anger, fear, anger, disappointment, I told you are wrong emotions. We have to focus on question the question. Find out, therefore, which section the question is asked under. Why is this important? Because the question flows from the section and the section dictates the procedure. Every section has a rule. Every rule has a form. Every section has a rule. Every rule has a form. If you see section 61, section 61 provides the basis in law to raise a observation about a discrepancy. So under section 61, department is required to issue a notice. Rule 99, form ASMT 10. So department is going to take section 61, take rule 99 and form ASMT 10 and send out a communication. As soon as you receive a communication, you should ask yourself which section. Because if you know the section, you will know the action that you are supposed to take. If you know the section, you will know the action that you are supposed to take. Section 61 provides 4 key words for us to understand: proper officer, return, discrepancy, explanation. Proper officer, return, discrepancy, explanation. If you are registered with the state administration, central administration cannot send you ASMT 10. If you are registered with central administration, state administration cannot send you ASMT 10. Point number 1, proper officer. Return. GSTR 3B is the return. GSTR 9A is the return. Not 9C, not 2A. They must identify a particular return in order to conduct the scrutiny. So therefore, it has to flow from a return. Once the return is selected, the third word is discrepancy. Please understand, discrepancy is not suspicion. Understood? Discrepancy is not suspicion. I feel you are not paying RCM on GTA services. That is not a discrepancy, that is a suspicion. Because the source of that doubt is not based on the return. The source of that doubt is based on analytics. In your business, normally you are supposed to have GTA services. If you had GTA services, then you should have paid RCM. Therefore, how come you have not paid? See, analytics. The discrepancy must have its direct connection with the returns. Fourth, you are supposed to give an explanation. So about that one point, whenever you receive any communication, we touched upon 160 subsection 2 regarding validity. The next question is, do not ignore, do not ignore, do not ignore, do not ignore. If you see circular 122 and later 128 also, the question about DIN number, if it does not have the DIN, whether you should disregard it. My submission, don't disregard it, reply it with a question. Reply it with a question. What is the question? 3-step reply. 3-step reply. Step number 1, I received your communication dated so-and-so on so-and-so date. Second, I reject the contents of this communication. Totally. Summarily, entire thing is rejected. Any demand, if it is there, and the demand is disputed. That's all. See, why you are disputing it is a matter of adjudication. You are disputing, that is your position. Why? Section 59, I have already done my assessment. So what if my assessment gives rise to a nil liability? My assessment, I have assessed the liability and the answer I have come to is 0. There is no necessity that everyone should come to an answer which is not 0. Maybe I am exempted, maybe it is no supply, maybe it is non-taxable, maybe it is schedule 3 item, maybe it is, there are so many ways. So therefore, I reject your notice and the demand is disputed. The third step is, I am required by section 160 subsection 2 to question this notice without entertaining it further. 3-step response. I received your communication dated so-and-so on so-and-so date. I reject the contents of this and dispute the demand therein. And I rely on section 160 subsection 2 to question the validity of these proceedings. The reason why we have to question this is because I told you everything has a timeline, everything has a process. In GST, unlike ever before, the rule of law stands tall. You have safeguards in the law. The rule of law stands tall. And I'll give you examples why it needs to be followed. Notices are being sent in so many different ways. If you look at section 169, you will find 14 different ways it can be served. There is a contractor, he works for the local municipality. There's a contractor who works for the local municipality. He is uneducated. The labor that he employs, they are uneducated. He is providing some low-end area of activity, but a very important activity in society. such a contractor was issued a notice on the portal. This person says, I don't know to read and write. I don't have a smartphone. I don't spend time on all these gadgets. I have a small business and I'm working with a local municipality. Service is not any mode that is permitted in the law, but service is to make sure it reaches that person who has to be served that notice. So just because section 169 contains 14 different ways, the most inexpeditious way of communicating cannot be chosen. There's an appeal we filed about 1.5 years ago. The notice was communicated on the portal and by email. The assessee received that the order was passed on ex parte basis and communicated on the portal and by email. The assessee is not knowledgeable about technology. After 180 days, more than 6 months, there is a normal time limit for filing appeal. After 180 days after the time limit, he came to know because bank account was being attached. An appeal was filed. An appeal was filed saying days of delay, 0. The number of days delay, 0. Appeal was filed telling the first appellate authority saying that the date I received the notice is the date when the bank account got attached. According to me, from that date onwards, I will count the 3 months to file appeal. Within 30 days, I have filed the appeal, so there is no delay. Department objected saying that no, 3 months is over, 30 days for condemnation over, another 180 days is over. How can you say? The first appellate authority simply said, appeal is admitted and posted a date for hearing. Please bear in mind, you need to know about the aspect of timelines. Any way of serving is not amounting to service. It has to be served in the most expeditious way of serving it. Please keep this aspect in mind. When we go to section 61, we will find notices are being issued. And these notices under section 61 are issued in lakhs. In lakhs. The same assessee is getting more than 20 notices. So therefore, let us identify what is the action based on what is the consequence. If you look at section 61, it says proper officer, return, discrepancy, explanation. When you receive a notice, you are supposed to give an explanation. It does not say the explanation must be satisfactory. You give an explanation. If it is satisfactory, that is the end of the matter. If it is not satisfactory, further action under section 65, 66, 67, 73 or 74 may be taken. So therefore, the next most important point to mention here is in GST, there is no such thing called spot recovery. There is no such thing called spot recovery. Immediately they will come, immediately they will explain, immediately assessee will agree, immediately payment will be made. Those days are gone with the earlier tax regime. What is important is, please, if you're not satisfied, please issue a show cause notice. That is what the law says, not that the assessee is not saying all this. Please proceed with the next. So therefore, there is no sword hanging on your head. There is no sword hanging on your head that if you don't agree to this ASMT 10 and the demand that is contained in it, you are going to see bank account being attached. There is no such thing that can happen. Please wait. Once you have responded with an explanation, whether satisfactory or not, the next course of action is for the revenue to decide whether they wanted to conduct an audit under 65 to more thoroughly verify the facts before issuing show cause notice, or they want to conduct an inspection, search and seizure to come to the correct facts, or they want to straight away issue show cause notice under 73 or 74. So there is no such thing. From 61, there is no direct connection to 79 recovery of tax. There is no direct connection. Please bear that aspect in mind. So when you receive ASMT 10 notices, you are supposed to reply in ASMT 11. They will pass an order in ASMT 12. Since there is no question of recovery, these three initial emotions we have to rule out. Fear, anger, disappointment. We said we will leave it out. Those are the wrong emotions. Question the question, explain your facts, and wait for the law to take its course. At this point, I want to pause here and make a mention. Friends, this is not 2020 cricket match. 7 o'clock toss, 11 o'clock result. This is not 2020. Anybody who believes that as soon as a communication comes from the department, immediately it has to be concluded, then you are going to be disappointed every day in GST. Let me bring this to your attention. And chartered accountants are so emotionally involved with the client's state of affairs that somehow if the client gets a notice, we catch a cold. And nowadays catching cold is a very fearful situation given what is going around. Please bear in mind, we have to be a little bit detached from all these things because you are neither the cause nor the cure. You are not the cause of this situation because department believes your interpretation is wrong. So you are not the cause. The cure will come only after another authority examines both the arguments and comes to a conclusion. Now we will see what kind of notices are being given. We received a notice that said depreciation in your accounts is 16 crore rupees. How you can have so much depreciation? We don't agree. It is not correct. So therefore you are liable to pay tax. Friends, you won't believe it. The tax is calculated at 18% on depreciation amount. The tax is calculated at 18% on the amount of depreciation by increasing it by 10% margin. 110% of the depreciation, there's demand of tax has been made. So on the other side, department side, there is some amount of confusion also about this new law. Don't know what all questions we are supposed to ask. Let us ask many questions. Ultimately, anywhere no recovery is going to take place today. Let us ask the question. Let us see what answer comes up. But you know what's happening, friends? The sad thing that I have noticed. ST3 is not matching with 26 AS. And how many people have questioned the question and how many people have formed a line outside the department to pay that service tax? How many people have done that? So therefore, there is a lot of encouragement department has got by giving these broad-based notices because taxpayer does not know his rights. Taxpayer does not want to have rights. Taxpayer is happy to suffer. Taxpayer is very happy to go and prostrate in front of an officer thinking that if I go and fall at his feet, he will make this notice go away. Friends, the second most important change in GST is no discretion with anybody. The first important change is no spot recovery. The next is no discretion. There is nobody high enough in the system who can make your notice go away. As soon as you receive a notice, you will find out if you excuse me, you will find out if you know the officer personally. If you don't know the officer personally, then you will see if your branch chairman knows this officer personally. Knowing all these things of no use. There is no use knowing any officer. Once there is a communication, there is a rule of law as to how it has to be concluded. Remember, department also is going to be audited. Their files are also going to be scrutinized by somebody else. And therefore, they will have to have files which are clear and speaking. So therefore, this is not a 2020 match. This is a test match. This is a test match, not even one day. This is a test match. The result will come only on day 5. Now, the question is, There are some questions being posed by members also. By scanning through some of the questions, I find that it is still in the area of fear, anger, disappointment. Fear, anger, disappointment. Please don't let these emotions guide your decisions, because it will only blind you as far as the approach to be taken. Please take the approach based on questioning the question, explaining your position, and then allowing the law to take its course. It is a test match. Result will come on day 5. I'll quickly mention to you 2 aspects and then bring you back here and look at some aspects under section 61. If you get a favorable order, can you start celebrating it? If you get a favorable order, can you start celebrating it? Section 107(2) says, department can file an appeal up to 6 months. 6 months time is there for department to file an appeal. So don't start celebrating a favorable order too soon. Second, let us say you went on appeal and in the first appeal you got a favorable order. Can you start celebrating it? Section 108 says, first appellate authority's order can be reversed by the revisionary authority by giving you a notice in RVN1 up to 3 years. So friends, if you get an unfavorable order, you are going on appeal. If you get a favorable order, mostly department is going on appeal. So we are all going to meet in the tribunal. The question is, are you replying today, keeping in mind what is going to happen on day 5? I'll give you a small example. There was a company that had a valuation issue. Company had a valuation issue. Fiat India Limited, valuation issue was there. It finally got resolved by the Supreme Court, I think 2011, 2012 sometime. Supreme Court said in the final authority, and the chief was sitting in the court. Supreme Court said, in the month of June 1996, you have given one letter to the department where you have admitted that there is a subsidization that you have done. 2011-12, they refer to a letter issued in 1996, before the show cause notice was issued itself. Since you have only admitted long ago, we cannot say anything otherwise. So friends, tomorrow you will go to experts. Experts will help you in dealing with the appeal. You will engage advocates who will carry the matter to High Court and Supreme Court. But ultimately, what you did on day 1 is going to be very important. So question the question, give an explanation fearlessly. When you are giving explanation under 61, we're coming back now. Under 61, when you're giving explanation, please understand the difference between facts and interpretation. Facts and interpretation. Have you paid tax? Yes or no? It is a fact. Why did you not pay interest? Interpretation. Please give your answers factually. Don't entertain any interpretational issues, because there is a time in the future when interpretation will have to come up. Second, what sorts of notices are being issued? If you identify, we look at, I'll give you 2 simple examples which you all will agree. Every member will agree. You remember the discussion about section 9(4), inward supplies from unregistered persons. Subsequently, it was amended. And in the in-between period, it was exempted. It was exempted by from 13th October 2017. So my question is, from 1st July 2017 to 12th October 2017, have you paid RCM on unregistered dealer purchases or not? Yes or no? So therefore, on 9(4) liability, I remember those times when the conferences, this topic was discussed, there was a complete division about views as to how some transaction will not amount to URD purchase, some transaction will amount to URD purchase. Ultimately, there was no conclusion reached because the section first it was exempted and later the section was substantively amended. My question is, 1718, time limit is there till now February 2025 to raise issues. So notice can be issued on 9(4) liability up to 13th October 2017. What about interest liability on your net tax? The debate has not been about whether interest is payable. The debate has always been about whether interest has to be paid on gross or net. Whether gross or net, did you pay it? Now, how will we find out? If you look at the returns, system itself will tell you due date of filing and date of actual filing. There is not much calculation required. Due date of filing, date of actual filing. The net tax discharge already is also available. So if you identify, you will know what is the interest on net tax at least that ought to be paid. So therefore, friends, let us not make this second assumption that my client is always innocent. Let us not make this second assumption that my client is always innocent. The client is not always innocent. The client is innocent because he has no intention to defraud, but he is not accurate as far as his compliances are concerned. So look at it from this point of view, you will know if there is a liability, it has to be discharged. If you look at credits being taken, 2A versus 3B, the question can be asked even for 1718. Why? Data is available. No, it is not legally correct. See, fact is different from opinion. If you say it is legally not correct, that means you are admitting that factually what they are saying is correct, that you have taken credit which is not appearing in 2A. No, but 2A only came in October 2019. That is fact. But data is available that credit which you have taken is not matched. So when you look at the fact will reveal a certain issue that needs to be raised. So therefore, friends, department is going to raise questions because these questions are being thrown up by the system itself. Maybe 2-3 years ago, there's somebody I was talking to in some conference when we were discussing one of the issue. One member particularly came and said, "Sir, my officer does not understand all these things, sir. The way you are explaining, that level of understanding he is not having." But friends, let me tell you, there is no requirement for any officer to be so knowledgeable about any of the issues. The system is generating this information and sending him a list of notices that he is supposed to issue. So therefore, friends, if you think that the officer's intelligence is going to be the limit for you to get any notices, please remove that thought from your mind, because the crores and crores that is spent on this system is not only for 2A, 3B matching. The system is meant to do many other things. We have done the data entry work for the department, so department today can sit and generate various reports. But the question still remains, can system replace the person? System can only generate data. Person is required. I'll give you an example. We received a notice stating that you are having other income of so many lakhs. Please pay GST at 18%. A short reply was given. Please explain what is the HSN code. What is the HSN code? Because you are saying on the other income I am liable to pay GST at 18%. If I am supposed to pay 18%, you must be knowing what HSN code you have followed, whether goods, whether service. If it is goods, whether it is exempt under 2/17, whether it is service, exempt under 12/17. You tell me what is the HSN code you followed. In adjudication, that demand got dropped. In adjudication, that demand got dropped because a show cause notice that is deficient cannot be fulfilled in adjudication. So the next section that I want to bring your attention to is section 75. Section 75 is containing safeguards for the taxpayer. All the safeguards for the taxpayer are contained in section 75. Section 75(7), it says the grounds on which the notice is issued, on the same grounds the order must be passed. I will repeat. The grounds on which the notice is issued, on the same grounds the order must be passed. While passing the order, deficiencies in the notice cannot be corrected. Brindavan Beverages, Supreme Court said in 21380, a notice is the framework for the litigation. A deficient notice is fatal to the recovery. If the notice is deficient, then the recovery will fall. So friends, fear, anger, disappointment are not the right emotions. Once you question the question, you explain the facts. Next is the question of notice. It is for the revenue to discharge burden of proof. Revenue cannot come and say, oh, you have other income, so it must be arising from a supply. Therefore, you must be liable to 18% tax. There is no presumed supply. Every supply must be factual. I feel you are not paying tax properly. That is not at all correct provision to a basis on which a demand can be raised. You can feel whatever you want to feel. Unless you show me exactly what is the supply, there is no question that my self-assessment can be taken as incorrect. So friends, please encourage yourself. Fill yourself with this confidence that your self-assessment is correct. If it is wrong, if it is inadvertently wrong, please don't fight. If it is wrong, inadvertently, pay it, finish it. Don't bother about it. We have all made mistakes. We are all correcting our mistakes. We are not going to continue the mistake because of our ego. How can I correct? If I correct my mistake, then they will come after me for past year liability. That is not the right reason to put the client in further problem by continuing the mistake. No, a different interpretation can be taken. Please, everybody knows deep within their heart whether this is a mistake or not a mistake. There can be interpretations for everything. That does not mean you are in the dark. You know what is the position. So please look at it from this point of view. Take a stand. If you take a stand that you want to litigate, be confident about it, but carry it through to the full extent that is required. Carry it through the full extent. So when you look at section 61, you are going to receive notices, multiple notices until the last date comes. Be very careful to respond on facts, not on interpretation, and then the notice that will follow needs to be examined on its own merit. So when you look at section 61, please don't be anxious that so many notices are being issued. Perhaps you could even consider this is a wonderful experience because the aspect of receiving notices is not going to go away for the next several years. We are going to receive notices. The education that we will get in the way these notices have to be responded will be so invaluable that you will know exactly how to play this test match. So please equip yourself to deal with these notices as to how the notices needs to operate. When you look at notices being issued, we'll take a few more cases where department can raise questions under section 61 to identify how these incidents will arise. You are a composition taxpayer. Client is a composition taxpayer selling MRP products. It could be medicines, it could be FMCG products. Composition taxpayer selling MRP products. He is selling MRP products at MRP. MRP includes output tax. Has this composition taxpayer collected output tax but paid composition tax rate? Think about it. Questions can be raised. You are under composition under 2/19. 2/19 says you have to pay tax at 6% on the first 50 lakhs. 10 days of April, you did not know about this notification. So in the first 10 days, did you pay normal tax or did you pay composition tax? Please go back to your own files. You will identify there are areas where these issues will arise. I cannot but talk about refund cases. In 2018-19, there was a refunds drive. There was a refunds drive by the government saying that disperse refunds fast. So department did minimal verification and started dispersing refunds. You and I both know, friends, that in this push for dispersing refunds, many refund claims have been processed with minimal verification. And with minimal verification, some have taken advantage of it. So therefore, refunds are a big area of interest for revenue, and that is not unusual because there is time to raise these questions. At that time, refunds were given. Now questions are being raised about refunds. Invoices in respect of which refund is claimed, which are not matching. Supplier has absconded, he has not paid tax. I have taken that invoice and claimed refund. Government has lost revenue twice. Supplier supposed to pay, he has vanished. And I have got refund also. So you can imagine the government, the burden on the government to examine refund cases with a under a microscope, isn't it? So refunds are going to be another area of scrutiny. Supplies made to SEZs are also eligible for refund, but supplies made to SEZs are without getting endorsement from the specified officer. So therefore, friends, refunds itself, if your clients include cases where refunds have been processed and claimed, you can analyze for yourself whether the files are spick and span or the files contain issues, and it's only a matter of time. So when you look at section 61, I'm telling you, section 61 is the only window for the jurisdictional officer to look into your books. Recently, there was an officer who was visiting the taxpayer's premises. Officer said, I was passing by on this road, so I thought I will visit your office. So the client very politely invited him, gave him tea, and showed him the returns that were already filed. Officer said, please bring your books of accounts. So the client said, sir, under which section are you calling for books of accounts? Friends, there is no section in the law for the GST or the jurisdictional officer to call for your books of accounts. I have already completed the assessment. Why you want my books of accounts? Under section 61, there is no power for you to call for my books of accounts. If this is the position of law, then why are assessees, why are our members carrying books of accounts in pen drive, bills, vouchers for ITC claim and queuing up before the department? We don't know. Officer has called, so I will go. Anything that comes on official stationery, we are already trembling in fear. Friends, I request you. GST is a self-assessment tax. Please do not violate section 59 by going and standing in front of the department. So this point was communicated to the department in one of the instances. So the officer called. I'm interested to learn about GST. Please tell me why you are saying I don't have power to call for books of accounts. Sir, you don't have power to call for books of accounts. You don't have power to come to my office also. After 1 week, the officer called again and said, there is section 71 that gives access to business premises. Can I not come to your off premises under section 71? Sir, section 71, the answer given was, sir, section 71 does not have a rule, does not have a form. If you see section 71, it says with prior authorization, which means 71 is the procedural section for 65 and 66. Under 65, if you come to do audit, then I will give you access to my premises under 71. Under 66, if a special auditor is appointed, he can come to my premises. I will give access under 71, but I will not give direct access under 71. So officer's next question was, which is the point that we are now leading to. I can give summons to you under section 70. I will give summons to you. How many have received summons? The word summons itself is very scary. Oh my goodness, summons. And if you read the summons, it looks, the language also very scary. It will be considered a violation under section 193 and 228 of Indian Penal Code. You cannot vacate the premises until you are directed. The language is all very scary. Don't worry. Section 70, the power to summon can be used only in the case of an inquiry. Inquiry means investigation. Investigation means section 67, not 61. In officers training seminars, we are telling the officers, please don't use summons without discretion. Today, people are losing fear of summons. You send summons, you don't attend, next day one more summons will come. Under 61, there is no power to give summons. 2.5 years ago, one summons was given saying that please produce books of accounts. Reply was given, 3-step reply. There is no provision for you to call for books of accounts, a document or a statement. You can't ask for entire books of accounts under section 70. 2.5 years over, no further reply from the department. Friends, we need to bear in mind that we need to have confidence in the self-assessment we have done. If we have made mistakes, anyway, we have corrected it when we filed annual returns. If there are interpretations we have taken, we are ready to carry it forward to the next level. But every day we don't have to live in fear as to what questions will be raised. Questions will be raised because there are limited powers under which questions can be raised, isn't it? So therefore, please look at section 70. When summons are received, please identify who is the officer issuing this summons. I'll give you a small instance very quickly, very important to identify. 65 and 67 we have to contrast and study. 65 is departmental audit. 67 is inspection, search, seizure. Friends, if you are registered with the state administration, audit also must be conducted by state audit officers under section 65. If you are registered with the central administration, audit under section 65 must be conducted by Central Audit Commissionerate only. There is no cross connection for audit under 65. When audit is being conducted under 65, there is no summons that is attached to audit. Summons is attached to investigation, not to audit. Audit is defined in 2 subsection 13 as verification of correctness of. Verification of correctness of. To see normal halchal, normal compliance, 65. 67, if there is evasion. I feel there is evasion. No feelings here. Section 67 says, where a proper officer, where an officer not below the rank of a joint commissioner has reasons to believe 3 things. That a taxable person has suppressed stock or supplied, has claimed credit beyond his entitlement, has contravened act or rules to evade payment of tax. Any one of these 3 things must be pre-existing, and that should give reason to believe that inspection needs to be conducted. So without any of these 3 things being present, section 67 cannot be invoked. If section 67 cannot be invoked, summons under section 70 cannot be issued. The reason why it is important to understand under which section what action is being taken is because each section has boundaries. Each section has boundaries. It has particular person who is supposed to do. There are preconditions and post conditions. Before what they should do in order to invoke that section. Once the section is invoked, what action they need to take under that section. But until now, whatever sections we have touched, we have not come across a single instance where there is a spot recovery. 2 things are not there in GST. It is done away with permanently. Spot recovery is not there. Discretion is not there. There is no need to be afraid that they will come and take away money from your bank. There is no need to go and prostrate in front of any officer because he is the supreme authority. Law is supreme. There is no officer who is supreme. Let me now bring you to section 75, subsection 12, which is a topic of a lot of attention nowadays, because the amendment made in Finance Act 2021 was given effect from 1st July 2022. Nowadays, there are a lot of programs also. Latest amendments from January 22. Let us discuss. Please look at what's happening. We have always said GST is a twin tax. CGST, SGST. Both have to operate in parallel and in harmony. My question to you is, Section 75(12) explanation has been notified under the CGST Act. corresponding amendment in your state or UT GST Act, has it been amended already and notified? If it is notified, then both can be implemented in parallel. If it is not notified, is it possible for only one wheel to operate? It is not possible. So therefore, please be very careful. If we are operating under fear, anger, and disappointment, we will entertain any possibility to be afraid. But if we are operating in knowledge, understanding of the law, and confidence about the self-assessment we have done, we will fear nobody, or no threat will dilute this confidence, because ultimately this is a test match. What I say, you are not satisfied, you have the burden of proof. You have to now come and tell me why exactly I am wrong. No, your rate of tax is not correct. Is it? That's all is my response, because merely saying my rate of tax is not correct does not complete the responsibility. The Supreme Court decision in Govind Saran Ganga Saran's judgment, which says the 4 ingredients necessary have to be shown. What is the nature of the tax? Who is the person? What is the rate of tax? What is the measure to arrive at this tax? Everything has to be shown. Simply saying that you have on other income, you are liable to pay 18% tax, that is rubbish. That is not what is. In fact, in adjudication itself, that demand was dropped. So therefore, friends, please be more confident. Please equip yourself. So when you look at it from this point of view, recognize that notices will come and plenty of notices will come. We just need to know to find out which section, therefore what action. We'll touch upon section 62 because 62 is being very widely used nowadays. Section 62 is the section dealing with best judgment assessment. The precondition for section 62 action is a notice in GSTR 3A has to be issued under section 46. Section 61 is applicable for those who are filing the returns. Section 62 is applicable for those who are not filing the returns. Both are registered. I am registered, I have filed a return. They will scrutinize my returns under 61. I am registered, but I have not filed the return. So therefore, they will not follow 61. What will they scrutinize if I have not filed the returns? So 62 says they can do what is called the worst judgment assessment. Best judgment assessment. How they will do the best judgment assessment? They will arrive at any percentage they like. The whole country is growing at 4.5%, but only my client is growing at 20% every month on month he is growing. So on some basis, a best judgment assessment will be done. There are 2 opportunities for the assessing. Opportunity number 1, as soon as you receive a notice under GSTR 3A, please file a valid return. What is valid return? Valid return is a return where the admitted tax is discharged, 217. Valid return. Once you get a notice in GSTR 3A, still the assessee is sleeping, department will now, without further notice, pass a best judgment assessment under section 62. When you're dealing with notices, one clue I will share with you, which you have to please notice. Please notice the summary that is attached to a notice. What is this? The order under 62 will be issued in ASMT 13. The summary that is attached is DRC 7. What is this? Friends, DRC 7 is as good as a recovery notice. If you see rule 142.6, it says it is a recovery notice. If the order is attached with the DRC 7, be very careful. Next recourse is filing appeal only. If the order is attached with DRC 1, that means you are getting a chance to file a reply. DRC 1 is attached or DRC 7. That's all you need to focus on. If it is DRC 1, then you give a reply. If it is DRC 7, get ready for appeal. So in section 62, department will do the best judgment assessment, arrive at whatever liability. If you are operating under fear, anger, disappointment, you know what you will do? If you are under fear, anger, or disappointment, as soon as you see a ASMT 13 with DRC 7, you will immediately raise alarms. No need to raise any alarms. Calm down. Calm down. Section 62.2 says, when a best judgment assessment is passed in ASMT 13 with DRC 7, you have 30 days to file a valid return. You forget the 20% month-on-month growth they are estimating. You file your valid return. What is your valid? Whatever is your actual taxes, you arrive at the tax, file your return, take the credit, pay the taxes. As soon as you file a valid return within 30 days time limit, the return, the best judgment assessment that is passed is deemed to be withdrawn. What? The best judgment assessment that is passed is deemed to be withdrawn. You don't have to worry. They are arrived at a 25 crore liability. I have only 50 lakhs liability. I filed my return. Only thing you focus, did you file it within 30 days or after 30 days? As long as you have filed it within 30 days, that 25 crore demand will vanish in the air. It will vanish. You don't bother, no further action, because it is now deemed to be withdrawn. Law says that. Suppose you have filed it after 30 days. You have admitted tax liability, paid your 50 lakhs liability. Department has passed a best judgment order with 25 crores liability. You have filed your valid return after 30 days. Please file appeal under 1071. Please file an appeal, and in the appeal, all that you are going to say, is I already filed my return, but with a delay of 5 days for the following reasons. Please drop this demand. But mind you, to file appeal, you have to deposit 10% of these 25 crores. Why? Because you did not file the return within 30 days. Everything has a consequence. It is a refundable deposit of 10% to file appeal. So please keep your eyes open all the time. Now, how do we keep eyes open all the time? Because there are 14 different ways they will serve it. Whether it is the right way to serve or the wrong way to serve, taxpayer needs to be careful. Regularly check the login portal, regularly check the registered email ID, regularly check the registered mobile number, because we can take care of registered mobile number carefully for getting WhatsApp messages, for making online payments, what is that, Phone Pay, Google Pay, all that we can do, but we cannot do this for GST. Please make sure the mobile number and the email ID belongs to the person who is capable of shouting and raising alarms. I have received a notice. Something has come from the department. Somebody who can at least say that much, if you are able to identify that number, is important. Please don't use registered email ID and mobile number of a person who is very, very busy, the partner of the firm. Poor man, he is having so many cases, he does not know which one he is reading, which one he is omitting. Isn't it? That is why in my office, nobody relies on me for anything. And I have to depend on others to listen to me. So look at it from this point of view. Please make sure that you are constantly monitoring. Somebody has asked a question saying, how do we monitor? So many ways they will keep on coming. There are only 3 things to monitor. Physical post, monitor carefully. Registered email ID, monitor carefully. Portal, keep verifying. If you verify these 3 things regularly, then you cannot, it is impossible for someone to miss getting these communication in time. But when you get a communication, don't take it lightly and ignore it and discard it, saying that I will not respond to this. What is there? There is nothing in this document. How will I rely on this? When you receive it, I told you 3-step reply. 3-step reply. I received your communication dated so and so on so and so date. I reject the contents of your communication and any demand is disputed. I rely on section 160 subsection 2 to question the validity of these proceedings. Further, they can do whatever they want. But let me also tell you, there are many who will use this approach for genuine purposes. There are some who may misuse it also. Those who misuse will see the consequence of such misadventure. But those who genuinely use it, the law will come to your rescue. Please don't have any doubt in your mind. If you go back and study section 75, you will find that there is so much of safeguard for the taxpayer. It is almost a big hurdle for department. During departmental officers training, when you explain these provisions, officers are asking questions saying, Sir, so complicated. How I will issue notices like this? There was one question that came up saying that a show cause notice was issued without specifying the place of supply. If you don't specify the place of supply, then I don't know whether I have to pay IGST or CGST, SGST. Place of supply was not mentioned. Officer issued a corrigendum. Then on writing to the additional commissioner, the show cause notice and the corrigendum was withdrawn. The show cause notice and the corrigendum was withdrawn because the corrigendum itself proves that the show cause notice was incomplete. Please look at 75(7). The grounds on which the notice is issued, on those same grounds, the demand must be confirmed. Taxpayer is in the habit of proving his innocence. Taxpayer wants to prove his innocence all the time. You just ask one question, I will give you 50-page reply. You ask one question, I will give you 50. I will go to an expert, get a reply prepared, I will give 50-page reply. That takes us to section 65. Departmental audit. I mentioned already, state administration, if you are registered, then only state audit officers can do audit under 65. Central administration, if you're registered, only central administration can do audit under 65. There is no cross connection, I told you. When department commences audit, the sad thing that is happening, two sad things are happening. The first is taxpayer is preparing new information to furnish to the department. Please bear in mind, books of accounts and records that you are supposed to maintain under section 35, you are supposed to give to the department. But here, taxpayer is sitting and preparing Excel worksheet, VLOOKUP, HLOOKUP, Power Lookup, many calculations, landscape, portrait, everything taxpayer is doing because taxpayer thinks by giving more and more information, notices will not come. We as auditors understand this sentiment better than others. When you go for an audit, you have gone for an internal audit, statutory audit, during articleship days onwards, you're going for audits. Have you ever gone for a single audit in your entire career? Have you gone for a single audit and come back without a single finding? Have you gone for an audit, completed the audit, come back without a single finding? During my articleship days, I had one experience. I did not come out with any finding. I didn't know, my limited knowledge. I did not have any, everything was okay. But there was tremendous pressure from my supervising senior that I have to come out with some finding. So after 15 days, I came back with one long list of observations. So he said, what is the observation? Here is this list of payment vouchers without revenue stamp. Something I want to find out. In GST, when your case is selected for audit, you can rest assured nobody is going to do your audit to give you a clean chit. Because if clean chit could be given, they would have dropped the audit at the time of allotment itself. Because it is possible to raise a demand, only your case has got selected. Please be assured of that. There are three types of risk-based selection. One, there are certain industries which are risky. I don't want to single out any industry, you know better. There are certain industries, straight away there is full risk in that industry. Whether limited listed companies involved or a proprietary concern is there, the form of the organization is irrelevant. That industry itself is under a cloud of suspicion. Selected for audit. Next, there are certain commodities where there is ambiguity in the interpretation of the law. Ambiguity because if you interpret one way, you will be exempt. If you interpret another way, you will be taxable at 18%. So there is enough motivation to take two different interpretations. So that. The third, there are certain players who are very famous. You know, their PAN number is very famous for doing hanky-panky things. So risk-based assessment is going to be used to select cases for audit. So if your client has showed up on somebody's radar, then you can rest assured they are not coming here to do audit to give shabashi and go. They are coming here to collect additional revenue. So when your case gets selected for audit, only two consequences. Either you pay additional revenue that is being raised, or take show cause notice. Pay additional tax or take show cause notice. If you are confident about your self-assessment, be fearless. Be fearless. Department will send ADT 1, 3 months time for them to complete the audit, extension of further 6 months. Commissioner will not give extension because 3 months is more than sufficient to complete the audit. Department will come in, do an audit. ADT 1 contains 50 items. I keep mentioning this in departmental audit trainings. When you ask me 50 documents to submit, then I'm very confident you know nothing about my industry. If you ask me 50 things, you don't know anything about my industry. But if you ask me 5 things, I will be careful about such an audit officer. If you get ADT 1 with 50 things, then you can be sure that they don't know anything about your industry. They are only going to focus on 2A versus 3B, RCM, interbranch supply of goods and services, interest on delayed payments. Essentially, they are focusing only on these areas. So therefore, you be prepared that there is going to be a additional demand of tax or a show cause notice. If only 5 points are raised, clearly somebody knows your business. Clearly somebody knows your business. He has selected your file knowing your business. He has selected your file knowing the issues that exist in your business. He has selected the file knowing that those issues exist in your firm and there are 2 different views taken. So therefore also in this case, you are going to get additional demand or additional show cause notice. I want to draw reference to 2 provisions. Rule 101(4). When audit party conducts the audit and gives a report of their observations, they will notice they make some observations. They will communicate those observations to the taxpayer under Rule 101(4). Taxpayer has to say, I agree or I don't agree. Whatever is the taxpayer's reply, I agree to this observation, I will pay the tax. No, I don't agree to this observation, and you don't pay the tax. I have seen instances where the taxpayer has a tendency to write long stories. Taxpayer has a tendency to write long stories, 50 pages, 60 pages of explanation. Black's Law Dictionary, Ramanathan Iyer Legal Lexicon, Sestat Judgment under Service Tax, European Court of Justice Judgment, Delhi High Court Judgment, Guwahati Judgment, Ahmedabad. Please calm down. They are asking you not for your permission. Under Rule 101(4), they are asking you not for your permission. They are telling you, I have noticed a discrepancy. I want additional tax. You agree or you don't agree? You say you agree, pay the tax. If you say you don't agree, they will do further what is to be done according to law. What is the point of this 50-page, 60-page reply? I will tell you what happened. So 101(4), there is a requirement for the observations are noted, are disclosed to the party. Party will give some reply. Party's reply will also be taken on the file, and then a report will be given under 65(6). Friends, please remember 65(6). Once 65(6) reply is given, I have seen assessees, department has given a reply in 65(6) and the assessee is carrying bills and vouchers for second innings batting. Again he wants to go, again he wants to explain, again he wants to convince the officer, somehow sit on that officer's head till he drops the point. Friends, please bear in mind, once the train has left the station, you can sit in the platform and cry, or you can sing. Train will not take reverse gear and come back into the station. Once a 65(6) report is issued, that is the end of the chapter. There is nothing further to be done. Please look at 65(7). 65(7) says, once a report is issued under 65(6), show cause notice under 73 or 74 to be issued. You know what is happening? taxpayer will get an observation list under 101(4). Taxpayer will give 50-page reply. I have seen 50 pages reply given. Department collected all the grounds, all the Delhi High Court judgment, Guwahati judgment, European Court of Justice, everything is contained in this reply. Department now issues a 60-page show cause notice. Why? 50-page reply has to be incorporated. Taxpayer has a tendency to disclose defenses prematurely. Taxpayer has a tendency to disclose the defenses prematurely. I would sincerely urge you, please give statement of fact. What is statement of fact? I agree to pay or I don't agree to pay. Why you don't agree to pay, you can give reasons. Nobody is interested to be convinced by your answers. They are convinced with their answer. They are now interested in collecting that revenue. If you're not going to pay, they will take further action. So please remember, 101(4) is not to take permission, and 65(6) is the end of the process. But I have seen taxpayers make this mistake repeatedly, educating the department. These Ramanathan Iyer legal lexicon, Black's Law Dictionary, European Court of Justice, all that later. See, after all the work that has to be done when you are fielding, you have to wait for your turn to do batting. You cannot take the bat and go into the field while you are still fielding, isn't it? There is a time for everything. There is no need for hurry. Taxpayer wants to give everything in the first over only. I want to hit the entire score. That is not possible. Remember, it is a test match. So don't educate the department against yourself. Please cooperate, extend full cooperation, give all the facts. If you are confident about your tax position, state very politely, very clearly, I don't agree. But why you don't agree? Why I don't agree is not as important as the fact that I don't agree, so that you have now clarity as to what you need to do next. 67, on the other hand, is very important. 67 is a very exceptional power. Right from 1960 AR, we can trace judgments. I invite you to please, if it is possible, read one article is published in our members journal of October 2021 issue, discussing what can be done under 65 cannot be done under 67. But sad situation today, department is attempting to do a routine audit under the exceptional powers in section 67. Department is doing routine audit under the exceptional power of 67. I told you earlier that 67 1A is applicable to taxable person, 1B is applicable to any other person. 67 1A is applicable in 3 situations where he has suppressed stock or supply, has claimed credit beyond his entitlement, has contravened act or rules to evade payment of tax. So department has to come with prior reasons to look at a specific evasion. Under 67, friends, let me tell you, following 3 things cannot be done under 67. What are the 3 things that cannot be done under 67? Classification cannot be questioned. Valuation cannot be questioned. ITC cannot be questioned in the normal course. 2A, 3B, 17.5, Rule 42, 43 reversal. 67 cannot be used to do routine things. All those things can be done only under 65. In 65, we have seen that in order to take any action under 65, no prior suspicion is required. But in 67, prior suspicion plus reasons to believe are required. I feel you are claiming credit on motor vehicle also. Does not give jurisdiction under section 67. So therefore, what you need to do, please focus on CBIC instruction number 1, 1st February 2021. Then instruction number 2, how inspection need to be conducted. Always I maintain this. Whenever department officers visit under section 67, please collect a copy of INS1. If they don't give you INS1, you can get it later. But please ask for INS1 copy, because INS1 is the format in which authorization is granted by a joint commissioner or additional commissioner that for certain reasons inspection is necessary. Please bear with me, some very important points to be mentioned. In departmental officers training also, we're spending time repeatedly explaining that enforcement officers, especially in the state, anti-evasion and preventive wings in the central department should not simply arrive at your doorstep. There has to be reasons to believe. If you see Radhakishan Industries judgment in para 65 and 66, if I'm not wrong, Supreme Court called for the files of the Joint Commissioner. Supreme Court studied the notes made by the Joint Commissioner, read the notes and said, what is this? There is no reason for you to take such action. So therefore, recording of reasons to believe is a very significant measure. So therefore, it is not possible for department to easily take action under section 67. But today the sad thing is it is being taken easily, taken lightly. But what is even more sad is taxpayer is entertaining such illegal proceedings. I have no hesitation in stating this fact on our institute's platform. Taxpayer, acting out of fear, anger, disappointment, is entertaining illegal use of power. Please bear in mind, when authority is used illegally, the discovery is also tainted. But when the taxpayer himself fails to question this, he will forfeit his right to question it. So my submission again is, when any inspection is being conducted, what should I do? Is your question. When any inspection is being attempted, what you need to focus on is ask for INS1. If they refuse to give INS1, it is all right, be quiet. Under section 67, there is no question answer session that is allowed. Under section 70, question answer is allowed. Under section 67, be quiet, extend full cooperation. Let them inspect, let them check, let them do what they want, because there is a safeguard for the taxpayer. The safeguard for the taxpayer is in 6710. I will tell you later. Please extend full cooperation, give full access. 67.1 deals with inspection, 67.2 deals with search. Inspection and search is not one and the same. Inspection is to come, check the records and go back. Search is to come and see something which is secreted. If you see the form INS1, it contains part A, B and C. A is for 67.1A, B is for 67.1B, C is for 67.2. Recently, I have seen in Karnataka, one INS1 has been issued. No reasons to believe nothing. The entire section has been copy-pasted onto INS1 and the additional commissioner has signed it, stating that I am satisfied that your premises must be inspected. If necessary, it can be searched, and on searching, if something is found out, that can be seized also. A short reply was filed. A short reply was filed. From the contents of INS1, no reasons to believe inspection is applicable are forthcoming. Please explain what are the reasons to believe that the exceptional powers under section 67 are invoked. This letter was given to additional commissioner. Another letter written to the assistant commissioner saying that I have made an application to the additional commissioner seeking certain clarifications with regard to the inspection conducted. Until a reply is received from the additional commissioner, please adjourn all further proceedings in the matter. No reply from both of them for last so many months. Friends, please bear in mind, if you don't ask for your rights, they can be violated, whether it is inadvertently or otherwise. I would think it is inadvertent for the reason I will tell you. In VAT, whatever could be done, whatever in the name of reassessment could be done in VAT. Everybody had to get assessed. If they cannot do your assessment, then your return is deemed to be assessed. Otherwise, they will do your assessment. But in GST, I will do the assessment. If you think my assessment is wrong, please bring proof. You cannot simply enter into the taxpayer's premises. You have to enter into 61, 62, 65, 67. If you are proceeding under 67, you have to take action under 70 by giving summons. Every action has a section. It is not simply what someone feels like. I'll give another example. In E.P. Royappa's case, S. Naranappa versus CIT, Supreme Court has time and time again said this. Passion to protect interests of revenue does not authorize bypassing procedures laid down in the law. If whatever the officer felt he could do, why did Parliament waste its time drafting Section 67? Why did Parliament waste its time drafting Section 67? 67 is so different from 65. 65 is so different from 61. Every section has a particular provision. So much of effort has been made to give authorization as to who can take action under what section. Is it possible for Commissioner of Police to give GST notice? No, sir. How can you give notice? I am also Commissioner. GST Commissioner is also Commissioner. Why I cannot give any notice? Ultimately, you are supposed to pay revenue to the government. For everything, there is a particular person that is named. That person only should do that action. Anybody who likes to do whatever they want cannot do what somebody else is meant to do that action under the law. Confidence, confidence in self-assessment, faith in the law is the next aspect I want to emphasize. Please believe this law is there to rescue you from abuse of this law. Abuse will take place because of ignorance on the other side also, not because there is bad faith. It is because of ignorance. You won't believe it. Even departmental officers are going through hours and hours of training in order to understand what they cannot do, because what they can do, they are understanding. What they cannot do, because ultimately you see the number of instances where matters are being carried to high courts. And if the high court passes strictures, it will be personally damaging to that officer. So everyone wants to understand the boundaries of law. So I'm encouraging you to feel confident that this law has enough safeguards. Only thing, you need to not throw it away. How do you throw away your rights? You throw away your rights by entertaining improper use of authority. Next aspect to emphasize now is Section 70. In summons, please bear in mind, it's a very serious matter. It's a very serious matter. Summons has to be respected. Summons has to be attended. But what will you say in the summons? When you attend anything in summons, when the taxpayer attends anything in summons, taxpayer needs to make truthful statements. I'll give an example. There was a doctor who was being cross-examined, who was being examined in a court, in a murder trial. The doctor was being examined in a murder trial. He had done the verification of the medical report. So they were asking him as the expert, please tell me what happened in this case. So the doctor made one statement. Your Honor, I think this is murder. Your Honor, I think this is murder. So the judge dismissed the doctor and said, you can please go. Whether it is murder or not, I will decide. I am the judge. You are the expert. You only tell me medically how the death occurred, by suffocating, by some poison, or by some other cause. Medically, you tell the cause. Murder or not murder, why are you entering into? You understand? In summons, the taxpayer is already afraid. You see that summons itself, little BP will increase. When they attend the proceedings, taxpayer has a tendency to blurt out many things. MD will get summons. MD is who? MD is engineer. Engineer will go and make some statement about GST, time of supply, place of supply. I'll give another example. A show cause notice was issued, and the supporting document for the show cause notice is the statement recorded of the MD. In the show cause, in the statement, one of the questions asked to the MD is, please tell me what is place of supply of your exports. So MD must have understood this question from English language point of view, not from the law, because he does not know the difference between place of supply in the law versus the place of supply in English language. So he said, we are supplying from Jaipur. So the show cause notice is issued stating that the MD has admitted that the place of supply is Jaipur, therefore it is not an export. Please bear in mind, in summons, facts have to be given, not interpretation of facts or interpretation of law. Normally, these two mistakes are committed in summons. Give the facts. Did you pay the GST? Did you not pay the GST? Is it goods or service? That is also not facts. That is law because of Schedule 2. Did you pay the tax? Did you not pay the tax? Did you give the contract or did you get the contract? Did you receive the payment or did you not receive the payment? See, these are all the facts. What is the place of supply, whether it is goods or services, what is the time of supply, what is the valuation, what is the classification? These are all interpretation of the law. So therefore, we need to be tremendously mindful. Attend summons, make truthful statements. Statement must be concerning the facts. With this background, we can now look at very briefly, in the limited time, I want to make some time for some questions. Very briefly, we will touch upon section 73, 74, and 75. Show cause notices have to be issued. Without a show cause notice, no demand can be made. Show cause notices have to be issued. Without a show cause notice, no demand can be made. To issue a show cause notice, pre-notice consultations have to be conducted. Pre-notice consultations have to be conducted. It is provided in section 73.5 and 74.5. To issue show cause notice and pass orders, there are time limits. I invite you to please look at section 75.10. It says, the time limits specified in 73.10 and 74.10, if that is violated, then the proceedings will be concluded as it is. No demand. Everything has to be done within time limit. Previously, what used to happen is notices had to be issued. Starting date is laid down in the law, but completion date was not in the law. In GST, starting date also is there, completion date also is there. So therefore, notices have to be issued, hearing conducted, order passed within a specific time limit. While issuing show cause notice, revenue should be very clear about all the ingredients that are required to support the allegation. I feel you are not paying tax. We issued a summons, you came in and agreed that you are not paying tax according to this interpretation, therefore you are liable to pay tax. I like such show cause notices because it is easy to get favorable decision in appeal against this. I told you, ultimately we will all end up in appeal only, because if you get a favorable order, they will go on appeal. If you get an unfavorable order, you will go on appeal. Why? You are confident, they are also confident. So look at it from this point of view. Show cause notice has to be very clearly issued. In the context of show cause notice, I want to bring to your attention that summary that has to be attached. DRC 1, DRC 7, mind you, I told you it is a summary for recovery action. When show cause notices are issued, you will get a summary in DRC 1. Where all DRC 1s are used? DRC 1 is used in 73, 74, 76, as well as in 63. 63 deals with unregistered persons, which we didn't have time to go into. So DRC 1 means you have a chance to give an explanation. When there is a chance to give explanation, please take time not to be angry, not to be fearful, not to be disappointed in approaching this very systematically. Question the question. Just because a notice has been issued does not mean you are guilty. Therefore, you have to prove your innocence. You only have to first establish whether the allegation is properly proved or not. There's a small article in our IDT committee's newsletter about the concept of mens rea. Mens rea. recently edition of our newsletter. I invite you to please take time to read that, because some judgments are also referred so you can understand it. If you open your mouth when you are not supposed to open your mouth, I'm saying this in no simpler language as possible. If you open your mouth when you are not supposed to open your mouth, you are answerable for whatever you have now blurted out. Can it be any more simpler than this? Please be very careful what you are stating, whether you are supposed to state it, what you are not supposed to state, are you volunteering to state it? So therefore, please understand, notices have to be responded in a particular manner. And I will give you 3 levels as far as the success rate in notices are concerned. Once the person who has issued the notice is going to adjudicate upon it, the likelihood of that person changing his mind is very low. So the likelihood of a favorable outcome in adjudication is therefore logically very low. First appeal is also based on what grounds you have taken. Normally, I have seen appeals. Chartered accountants are the ones who are seen doing this, and I'm not pointing fingers at anyone else but myself. I'm only sharing my mistakes. I have made mistakes like this. Therefore, I'm sharing with you. Don't make mistakes. Grounds of appeal is like a novel. Full emotion, full drama, action sequence, songs, dance if possible. It is so long that nobody is going to read it. Grounds of appeal must be brief. You need to know what is grounds and raise those grounds in the notice. 2 days ago, I was attending a hearing before Commissioner of Customs Appeals. I told the Commissioner that I want to explain the facts. Before explaining the facts, I had told the Commissioner that show cause notice itself has not been issued. Direct order has been passed by the Assistant Commissioner of Customs. So the Commissioner said, I don't want to know the facts. It does not matter what the facts are. Since the show cause notice itself has not been issued, there is nothing left to demand in this case. So friends, therefore your grounds have to be very carefully identified, what grounds need to be raised. First appellate authority or the tribunal, you will get relief. You will get relief provided you have made the right pleadings. Taxpayer has a tendency to conduct himself before the appellate authority like the adjudicating authority. Adjudicating authority, the conduct is totally different. Appellate authority is focusing on the grounds, the pleadings, and the prayer. The grounds, the pleadings, and the prayer. But taxpayer sees everybody as one officer of the law. So everything I will explain, jo bhi theek hai, wo kar denge. Please bear in mind, we need to respect when the law is there for our safety. We need to know how exactly the law requires us to avail its services. I'll give an analogy. You know how to wear car seat belt? You know how to wear car seat belt? Okay. You know how to wear seat belt in a aircraft? First time I was traveling, I did not know how to wear the seat belt. I thought I will take both sides and I will tie it up together. Tightly I will tie it and I will be safe. Nobody can remove that knot. Such an expert knot maker I am that even I cannot remove that knot after the flight lands. But then that person came and told me, no, don't do all this monkey business. You just take these both ends and you clip it together. It will go and sit nicely. I thought that time this person does not know how good I am in tying the knot. If I tie it tightly, nobody can come out of it. I am so good in tying knots. But this clip, I think it is not very strong. My knowledge came from common sense. My knowledge did not come from the basis on which the seat belt is there. Today we are looking at how to get relief in appeal by our common sense. I sincerely urge that appellate remedies are easy to get, short duration, maybe the wait is long, but duration is short. Pleadings, isn't it? All that matters is the grounds, the pleadings, and the prayer. The grounds, the pleadings, and the prayer. So therefore, please have confidence that appellate remedy is for our rescue. But we don't want to avail appellate remedy because we are already operating under fear, anger, and disappointment. I hope that members would be able to identify that operating in anger, fear, or disappointment only takes us to the path where we'll have questions like, how can this be solved? I see some questions being raised. What is the remedy for this? How can we avoid this? Where do we go against this, etc.? I'll now touch upon that last aspect in 6710, having talked about show cause notice, that I want to refer in section 6710. If you read section 6710, nothing is apparent. 6710 basically says commissioner shall be equivalent to magistrate under section 165(5) of CRPC. Commissioner will be equivalent to magistrate under section 165(5) of CRPC. If you go to section 165(5) of CRPC, it says, before any trial commences, the accused can make an application to the magistrate to give all the documents and records that are available in the file under 165(1) and 3. How is this relevant for us? Friends, let me tell you on this important issue. More important than filing a reply to show cause notice is the application under 6710. More important than replying to the show cause notice is your application under 6710. When inspection, search, and even seizure is conducted, ultimately, I told you will give cooperation. Ultimately, there is a time when you will ask all the questions and raise all your objections. You will get a show cause notice. The time to ask questions is under section 6710. Ask those questions there. Depending on what answers you get or what questions answers are avoided to be provided, you will know what grounds to be taken in your defense. Friends, safeguards are there in the law. Taxpayers' rights are protected. Taxpayer has given many remedies, and there are plenty of safeguards for taxpayer. But taxpayer is in such a hurry, the 2020 generation, that we want, if we get a notice on Wednesday, we file a reply on Friday, we want a favorable answer by Monday. GST law promises a good outcome, not based on the outcome, but the process by which that outcome will come. We need to have patience to endure this process, because it has a lot of benefit that we can derive only if we protect our rights, act upon those safeguards so that we can enjoy the remedies promised in this law. I thank IDTC of ICAI for giving me this opportunity, and above all members for your participation in this webinar. Thank you all very much. There are a few questions, time permitting. I'll try and cover as many of them as possible. Department is sending show cause notices for 2017, 18 to 19, 20 now. Is it all right for them to issue notices so late in the day? Please bear in mind, I've already mentioned 2025 is the last date by when they are supposed to issue notices and pass orders. Giving notices is a right. It is in fact their duty to give notices. So therefore, they will issue notices. You have to reply to those notices. Is there any recourse for cess paid erroneously in December 17 instead of GST and refund application filed immediately, and the refund amount is debited out of the cash ledger? Is it possible for refund to be sanctioned? Certainly. Please keep your refund application alive. If it is rejected, carry the matter in appeal. Otherwise, you will get your refund even if it is taking some time. Notice sent by GST department on registered email ID and intimated through SMS. How does assessee ensure notice is not missed out? Please make sure that you are monitoring all the notices. I told you, don't leave the registered email ID or mobile number unattended. Frequently check the login, and of course, postal delivery of notices. What is the outcome of Safari Retreat's judgment that is carried in appeal by the department to Supreme Court? No outcome yet. We are all eagerly awaiting to see what will happen. Is there any appeal possible against search and seizure? Search and seizure is only a proceeding. It is not a decision or order. Search and seizure must ultimately conclude in a notice. Against that notice, there will be adjudication and thereafter only appeal. Just because search and seizure is conducted, you cannot file appeal straight away. Department has issued notices for 1819 proposing reversal of ITC of 2A, 3B. Seller has not paid the tax. And it is also confirmed that seller has not filed GSTR1. If really tax has not been paid by the supplier, but your client has claimed the credit, you know the answer. You need to make a decision whether you want to insist that you are innocent or you want to discharge this liability. But if you want to litigate this matter, you will need to reply that you don't agree with this interpretation of the law and let the law take its course. Is it possible to receive notices by email? Yes, if it is a registered email ID, certainly notices can be sent by email. We've been getting email for wrongly charging interest. What should be done in this matter? Because show cause notice is not issued. As far as interest alone is concerned, section 75(12) says there is no requirement to issue show cause notice. Recovery action can be taken. As you have seen recent circular 160 that has been issued, government very clearly says you need to reply. And I told you the 3-step reply. If you don't agree with the interest calculated, please file this 3-step reply, then allow department to see what further action needs to be taken. What is the role of a chartered accountant as a representative? Whether it will change amidst faceless proceedings in GST? Absolutely not. I think this is an opportunity for younger members also to become familiar with this faceless proceedings, and chartered accountants can represent up to the tribunal. And I think most of the disputes will get resolved within that itself. So therefore, there is an enormous opportunity for chartered accountants. Please get used to the online system and become comfortable arguing your matters on a faceless mode. You will have a lot of opportunities. Can we avoid paying 25% of demand before going for appeal? Please bear in mind, 25% is applicable only for appeals against order under 129. Otherwise, 10% is the penalty, is the pre-deposit to be made. There is no option. If you see 107(6), it says your appeal is as good as not filed if you don't make the pre-deposit of 10%. Company registered in Maharashtra recruits employee out of state for doing marketing in Karnataka, Gujarat, etc. GST being consumption-based tax, company needs to register under GST in all the states. Please leave these concepts of consumption-based tax, etc. Those are all concepts that are not directly in any section. The principle of consumption-based taxation is there in place of supply provisions, but you can't use this. For registration, you have to examine whether this employee in all the states that you have recruited, whether they create what is called a fixed establishment under section 275. All right. If they create a fixed establishment, then you will be, 2 subsection 50. If they create a fixed establishment, you are liable for registration. But if they don't create a fixed establishment, you will not be liable to register. Under what circumstances can GST audit be ordered by the department? How will jurisdiction be determined? If you are mapped to the central administration, you will always be audited only by Central Audit Commissionerate. If you are mapped to state, state only will conduct audit. How they select your audit is based on internal risk-based assessment. 2A and 3B for past period appear to be dynamic every day. At the time of filing GSTR 9, figures for ITC are different. Many cancellations of ITC in 2A or 3B, it becomes tedious process to do the reconciliation. It's a challenge we're all facing, that it is very tedious. I don't have a ready-made solution, but this is something that we're all trying to come to terms with, and have no solution to offer on this difficulty that we're all facing. Whether section 160 subsection 2 also applies to communication received without DIN, where CBIC has issued a circular. Yes, 160 subsection 2 is in the statute. The discussion about DIN is in a circular. You please see which one will prevail over which. Why does ICAI not make a representation to the government to do away with the laws which are so onerous? It's a recommendation you would like to write to institute to take it up suitably. The statement that you're making is very broad based. Something very specific, if you're able to make a recommendation, suggestion, then certainly institute might be able to consider and take it forward. Reply to ASMT 10 was given in ASMT 11 for 1920 in March 21, but still officer has not replied. There is nothing further that the assessee needs to do. Assessee's job is over as soon as ASMT 11 is filed. We have filed one DRC3 and received ARN by email and message, but amount was not debited and status of ARN is also not available. What can we do? If the amount has not been debited, then you have to make additional effort to ensure that you are not retaining that money. Please make sure that you approach the department and not retain that money any longer. Whether related particulars under section 61 covers GSTR 1 and 2A? No. I think return refers to return under section 39 and not the one referred to in 1 or 2A. So it doesn't. Related particulars, the department may take action based on GSTR 3B along with 1 and 2A. They are welcome to take that action, but certainly without reference to GSTR 1, they cannot take any action. Is it correct to mention 73.5 in DRC 3 while paying the interest within 30 days of receiving show cause? Yes, you are welcome to mention that. As long as you are claiming the relief under 73.5, certainly you can make a mention. What is the correct position for the department to question 2A versus 3B? This is still a developing question. This is still a developing question whether 2A versus 3B. We have to wait for the final outcome. Invoice received by mail without signature, but now it has come to the notice that the person has not paid GST collected from my client. Now the party is not responding to mail or phone call, and our client has received a notice from the department. So this is clearly a administrative matter in the procurement department of your client. It is nothing to do with GST. As far as the department's notice is concerned, their action seems to be valid by your own question. What if a notice is received for complete scrutiny of multiple years, whether such notice is tenable? You're not saying under which section this notice is issued. There cannot be a scrutiny. Scrutiny is under a section 61. It cannot be issued for multiple years without referring to specific discrepancy in that scrutiny. Multiple years can be scrutinized only in a different way, only under section 65 by doing audit. ASMT 10 notices are received without any details, just vague reason like discrepancy in 3B, mismatch in returns. When you get a vague question, obviously your answer will also be vague. Please give a reply in ASMT 11 and that's the end of your responsibility. I just want to ask if we can continue the questions or do we need to, what time we will need to conclude, madam?
You can extend for 5-10 minutes.
All right. Section 74, will it cover extension to the annual return filing date on request of councils on any general common reason like COVID, lockdown, etc.? Please bear in mind, Section 74 time limit is for the department. It is not for the assessee. So therefore, that time limit has not been extended. So therefore, all these extensions, even Supreme Court's suo motu petition will not apply against departmental action. You can also refer to section 168A that has been introduced by Taxation Laws Amendment Act in order to cover such specific situations. It doesn't cover 74. When final return in GSTR 9 is filed, after considering all the errors made in 1 and 3B, is the notice valid? Since department has not taken into consideration the corrections that has already been made while filing GSTR 9, raising these questions is not relevant, but since they have raised this, the assessee can simply respond that all discrepancies have been duly attended to in GSTR 9. Nothing further remains to be answered now. Something to that effect can be responded. Communications are received from state officers without DIN. Is it valid? State administration, as far as I know, do not subscribe to this DIN-based monitoring. So their communications are valid even without a DIN. All right. Whether pre-show cause notice consultation is required, considering the quantum of penalty being asked to show cause against along with tax, or only tax amount up to 50 lakhs. It is only tax amount. So therefore, pre-show cause notice consultation threshold will be considered based on the tax amount. But if you really look at section 73.5 and 74.5, this is a measure of minimizing litigation. So therefore, please expect this pre-notice consultation as a matter of right. One of my clients is a 100% exporter, received notice and demand raised by giving reason of e-way bill created for 45 lakhs of outward supply. Please bear in mind, e-way bill violations cannot be objected if the vehicle is not intercepted during transit. All these logic-based notices have to be suitably responded, and eventually you will expect a favorable outcome. Notice means notice under 73, 74 or 61 also. Notices are generally referred to as anything, any communication from the department. That is a misnomer. Show cause notice is under 73, 74, 76 or 63. Under 6710, it is a scrutiny in ASMT 10, that is not a notice. Officer raised demand on amount written off belonging to pre-GST period. How to reply? How to reply is a matter of strategy as to how defense should be raised. It all depends on how the grounds have, how the allegations have been substantiated. Logic-based allegations don't require elaborate substantiation. Communication received from department saying payment of short paid late fee, which a system has inadvertently computed in error. Whether this is this communication correct in view of the fact that late fee is computed by the system? If it is a fact that late fee has been wrongly computed by the system, you know what is the correct late fee applicable. This communication from the department cannot be faulted, because ultimately no court will support someone who is trying to take advantage of system error on both sides. Notice issued to a financial institution for not reporting reversal of ITC under Rule 42, considering the quantum of exempt supply, whereas financial institution took only 50% credit. Correct. Notices can be issued based on logic, but reply has to be given. You cannot assume that notices should not be issued in all these cases. Clerical error on the part of the client, how can it be reflected in the next return? If it is GSTR 1, then correction in table 9 and 10 is permitted. If it is 3B, then the differential tax along with interest may be discharged through DRC 3. The vendor of a client was declared absconding by the department, and a survey has been conducted by the IGST department, forced my client to deposit the tax along with interest. The department officer did not even allow to deposit the tax under protest. On inquiry from the vendor, it came to know the vendor was declared absconding due to some technical issue of address. Now my client has deposited the tax along with interest. Certainly you can file a refund claim of this amount deposited, so that the safeguard in the law is that a notice will now have to be issued and adjudication done, at which time, without the anxiety around inspection that is conducted, will be removed and a fair opportunity will be available. Notice issued for minor mismatch between 1 and 3B. Under proviso to rule section 37.3, there is a time to rectify GSTR 1. The mistake is minor, so clearly you can see 1 rupee 86 paise of difference. So you can respond to this, that this is a minor mistake and it has since been rectified. So therefore, notices are not valid. Please don't ignore such notices, respond to it, and it will get dropped. There's input credit in 2A for a certain financial year, which was wrongly charged, which was later reversed by a credit note. We have not availed input tax credit, therefore we have not reversed the same. Now, in the portal, it is showing us input as per 2A is less. See, these differences will be there as long as you are confident about your facts. Please wait for the right time when notice will be issued and you will give a detailed explanation that will resolve this with clarity. Input lying in provisional GSTIN but no return filed. How to claim it? input credit has to appear in your electronic credit ledger. It appears in your credit ledger through your own claim in 3B. So therefore, if it is your eligible credit, please include it in 3B. If it wasn't your eligible credit, don't claim it merely because it is appearing on the portal. Can officer ask copies of invoice to be produced? Absolutely not. No question of asking for any copies of documents under section 61. You will only give an explanation. Department sending notices for mismatch of 3B. Yes, department will send notices. Therefore, with all earnestness, respond to that notice and await final disposal of that notice. Can taxpayer ask for copy of authorization given by Joint Commissioner under 67? Certainly, when you make an application under 6710, they must absolutely give you a copy of INS 1, and later you can raise questions based on the entire proceedings if INS 1 is not for good reason. Department issued notice under 61, sending notice in ASMT 10 for mismatch. Yes, this is a repeated question. Whether scrutiny under 61 can be initiated after completing audit under 65, please bear in mind, there is no mutual exclusivity. As long as the time limit under 7310 or 7410 remains, proceedings can be repeatedly carried out by the department. Which section provide burden of proof is on the department? 155 places the burden of proof on the assessee as far as eligibility to ITC is concerned. All other things by implication is on the revenue. You can also refer to section 101 of Evidence Act of 1872. You can also refer to Chuharmal's decision of Supreme Court, which says principles of Evidence Act apply to taxation matters also. Can department officers take stock of the goods in the assessee's shop? Yes, but only under section 67 and no other section.
Thank you. Will it be fine when we find out?
Can you say that again, please, madam?
Can we close, sir?
All right. Last question and we will done.
Yes.
If we filed belated GST returns for 17, 18, 18, 19 and 19, 20, now can we claim credit of eligible ITC? This is an area of big divergence of views. My view is that if returns have been filed belatedly along with late fee, returns so filed cannot be partly accepted as far as the output tax is concerned and partly rejected to the extent of ITC relying on section 16.4. I feel you have a good case, but it will only get resolved in appeal and not in adjudication. I once again thank members for your enthusiastic questions. I'm very sorry I'm not able to complete all those questions. We've reached question 60 and we'll have to call it a day. I thank you all for your interest. I thank ICA, Indirect Tax Committee, the chairman and the vice chairman for giving me this privilege, no less, that I consider, and this opportunity to share my mistakes and my learnings with all our members. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, sir, for such an insightful deliberation with so many practical examples. As we say, knowledge is power. Sharing knowledge is a key to unlocking that power. And thanks to you for unlocking that power and empowering us with the same to brighten our small world of knowledge. Thank you. Thanks a lot.